A sweet, soft-spoken 3-year-old who was tragically discovered in a deep freezer at his mother's home in Detroit.
Say, baby Chayce! Baby Chayce! We love you! We love you!
He did not deserve to go through what he went through.
Chayce France was Chayce's aunt. She says Azuradee France, who was Chayce's mother, has a history of children.
That's not my daughter. I brought a monster into the world, didn't even know it.
On June 24th, 2022, at about 12:45 in the morning, Detroit police knocked on the door of a worn-down home on Monte Vista Street. They were looking for a 3-year-old boy named Chayce Allen. His mother, Azuradee France, opened the door and told them Chayce was not there. She said he was with a woman named Mrs. Robinson, but she could not give them Mrs. Robinson's first name, phone number, or an address. And when officers came back to search the house, Azuradee stopped lying. She told them Chayce was in the basement. 5 other children were still inside that home, and underneath them, inside a broken freezer, police found the answer relatives had been demanding for months. But Chayce's story did not begin in that basement. It ended there. Chayce Allen was born in Detroit on September 1st, 2018, and for the people who loved him, he was more than the child at the center of a police investigation. His family described him as sweet, shy, soft-spoken, and gentle, and relatives said he had already been through more than a little boy his age should have ever faced. By the last part of his life, they said Chayce was blind, and he needed care, patience, and protection from the adults around him. But in the months before police came to the Monte Vista home, people started asking where he was. Neighbors asked, relatives asked, family members wanted to see him, and each time Azuradee seemed to have another explanation. At one point she said Chayce was in the hospital. Then the story changed and she said she had given him away. Another time she said a couple had him, and to someone else, she claimed relatives in Alabama were caring for him. There was also a story about Chayce staying with his paternal grandfather's girlfriend, but that explanation did not hold either. Then, when police finally stood at her door and asked the same question everyone else had been asking, Azuradee gave them one more name, Mrs. Robinson. But there was no clear address, there was no phone number, and eventually there was no Mrs. Robinson. So every version of the story led back to the same question. Where was Chayce really? To understand how Chayce reached that point, the story had to go back to November 17, 2018, when he was only a little over 2 months old. At that time, CPS records described allegations of neglect involving Azuradee France, her own children, and her 2-year-old nephew, Logan, who had been staying with her for about 2 months. The situation came to a head when Logan's mother arrived to take him home, but Azuradee refused to release him, so police were called to the house. When officers saw Logan, they found a child who was and wearing clothes that smelled of. He also had a cut on his forehead and several marks across different parts of his body. When Azuradee was questioned, she admitted that she had him with a belt more than once, and she also said she used the same form of punishment on her own children. That admission immediately raised concern for every child living in the home, including Chayce.
New tonight, another family comes forward saying their child was also by that mother, Azuradee France. It happened when he visited her home, and authorities made some huge mistakes in handling their case. So let's bring in Local 4 investigator Karen Drew, because she has the exclusive, Karen.
Yeah, Kim and Devin, this is all about accountability. Why wasn't more done? Tonight, we tracked down another victim of Azuradee France. Police and prosecutors and family confirmed this child was by the Detroit mother back in 2018 when he was just 2 years old and was visiting France's home. The reason why this story is so important is if authorities would have handled that case the right way, there's a chance France's son Chayce would not be dead.
He was beat up pretty bad, like black eyes, wounds all on his private area, and he was hurting.
That's how Patricia Davis remembers what her grandson looked like when she picked him up back in 2018 after he spent some time at the home of Azuradee France. She says He was soaked in urine.
So I had picked him up to put him in her mom's tub to wash him, but when I went to pick him up, he started screaming and crying like, like you gasping for air.
The boy was brought to the hospital. Sources telling me CPS as well as Detroit police were involved, and the case eventually ended up in court.
I remember the lawyers stating to us that she was going to lose her children and that she would be getting locked up for her crimes.
We've learned France was charged with third-degree child, later reduced to fourth-degree child, and only served 2 years probation. Her children were returned to her.
And I just feel like if they would have followed through with what they said they were going to do, I feel my personal opinion that Chayce would be alive today. I blame them because they had the upper hand. Meaning protective services, because the judge is going to react off the notes.
Then CPS workers looked at the conditions inside the house, and what they found added another layer to the case. The children did not have proper beds, rats had entered the home, and some had even chewed through a child's pack and play. One of Azuradee's daughters was old enough to be in kindergarten, but she was not attending school, and the home was considered unsafe for the children who were living there. Azuradee was arrested, and CPS specialist Chayce Simmons filed a petition asking the family court to remove the children and terminate Azuradee's parental rights. On December 6, 2018, the court removed Chayce and his siblings from her care, and Azuradee's name was placed on Michigan's Child and Neglect Central Registry. However, the court did not terminate her parental rights, which meant the removal was not permanent. Chayce was first placed with a maternal uncle, and then in January 2019, he was moved to a licensed foster home. For nearly 2 years, he remained outside his mother's care. But on November 17, 2020, the court ended its supervision and returned Chayce and his siblings to Azuradee. And less than 2 months after they went back, CPS received another report. This time, the concern centered on Chayce's hand. He had suffered second and third degree burns, and the explanation was that he had come into contact with hot noodles. By the time CPS became involved, however, the injury had worsened and the skin had started to peel. On January 11, 2021, CPS investigator Randall Fields Davis visited the house and saw the burn himself. He also noted that 4 children were sharing one bunk bed, the home was heavily cluttered, and an open bottle of bleach was sitting on the floor where the children could reach it. Azuradee told him she had already taken Chayce to urgent care, but after Fields Davis left, she called him and admitted that was not true. She said she had lied because she was afraid CPS would remove the children again. Only after that visit did Chayce receive proper medical attention, and when doctors examined him, they found more than the burn. He also had an abscess on his ankle that required immediate surgery and several days in the hospital. The warning signs had returned almost as soon as the children came home, and this time one of them had needed urgent treatment. However, Chayce and his siblings were not removed. They stayed with Azuradee. By September 1, 2021, another complaint had reached CPS, and this time the concern was not only about the condition of the home, but about what had happened directly to Chayce. According to the report, Azuradee admitted that she had spanked him excessively about a week earlier. Relatives who saw him afterward said he had a black eye, a cut near the top of his eyebrow, and around his ribs. They also said he appeared underfed and kept vomiting after he tried to eat, so the concern was no longer limited to one visible injury. The next day, CPS specialist Dominic Fox interviewed Azuradee at a hotel where she was staying with 4 of her children. Chayce was not there, and although the report described the hotel as unsuitable for the family, it did not clearly explain why they were staying there. Azuradee told Fox that Chayce was with her father in Coldwater, Michigan, so CPS specialist Stephen Brott went there to confirm it. When Brott arrived, he found Chayce clean and properly dressed. He did not see the black eye or fresh facial injuries described in the complaint, although he noted old marks and areas of skin discoloration on Chayce's chest. He then advised the family that Chayce should be examined by a doctor to confirm that he was physically well. Chayce was taken to a hospital that same day, and the examination reportedly found no immediate serious concerns. Doctors noted that he was small for his age, but not to the point of severe malnourishment, and they did not identify any fresh injuries beyond old marks and scars. CPS continued making contact with Azuradee, and by September 15th, Chayce had returned to her home, reported no visible bruises or fresh marks, so the investigation began moving toward closure. However, while CPS was preparing to close the case, another set of medical records was about to raise much more serious questions about what Chayce had already been through. In October 2021, the concerns around Chayce became much more serious because he was taken to hospital after problems with his vision and possible head trauma. Doctors found that his eyes themselves did not explain why he could no longer see, so they looked deeper. A CT scan showed fluid on both sides of his skull and swelling around the front of his scalp, while an MRI later showed bilateral subdural hematomas. A full-body survey also found a healing injury to his left femur. Chayce remained in the hospital until October 13th, and by the time he was discharged, the records described a child with blindness, head-related findings, and evidence of an older leg injury. However, the CPS investigation that had started in September was closed the very next day. On October 14th, 2021, the agency concluded there was not enough evidence to support the allegations of or neglect. Their report stated that Chayce had not suffered injuries from the alleged incident, and after several contacts with Azuradee, the case was closed. And after that, Chayce slowly disappeared from view. By early 2022, Chayce had almost disappeared from the lives of the people who knew him, and relatives and neighbors began asking the same question more often. Where was he? Azuradee always seemed to have an answer, but the answer kept changing depending on who was asking. She told neighbor Lynette Hardy that Chayce was staying with relatives in Alabama, so Lynette believed he was somewhere safe and adjusting to a new home. Other family members heard something different. Some were told he was in the hospital, while others were told he had been given away or was staying with another family. There was also a story that he was with his paternal grandfather's girlfriend, but that explanation did not hold up either. As the weeks passed, the stories became harder to follow, and the people around Azuradee became more suspicious because no one could actually confirm that Chayce was where she claimed he was. His grandmother, Toni Haynes, and other relatives contacted CPS again and again. Family members also said they had offered to take Chayce themselves because they knew he needed more care and attention than he was receiving. One relative later explained their position in the simplest possible way. If Azuradee could not cope with caring for him, then she should give him to someone who could. But she did not. Instead, Chayce remained out of sight, and every new explanation only created another gap in the story. Then on June 23, 2022, CPS received another complaint, but this one was more urgent than the reports that had come before it. The caller said Chayce had not been seen for a long time, possibly for most of the past year, and Azuradee had given too many different explanations about where he was. People were beginning to fear that he might not still be alive. So, in the early hours of June 24th, Detroit police went to the home on Monte Vista Street to check on him. When officers asked where Chayce was, Azuradee gave them another explanation and said he was staying with a woman named Mrs. Robinson. However, she could not provide the woman's first name, phone number, or address, and the officers quickly realized there was no way to verify what she was telling them. Then the story broke apart completely. Azuradee admitted that Mrs. Robinson did not exist and that she had made the name up. When officers insisted on searching the house, she stopped trying to send them somewhere else and finally told them the truth about where Chayce was.
Little Chayce Allen, 3 years old, had his remains, had a skull fracture. It was believed that he was malnourished. Police got there to check on him, and the officer said, "Mom," immediately blurted out, "I confess."
It was last June 24th, Detroit Police Sergeant Karen Boudreau was doing a welfare check on Azuradee France's 3-year-old son, Chayce, when the sergeant says the mom suddenly said, "I confess."
He was in the basement, inside the refrigerator.
He was the sweetest one. sweet. He was so sweet.
That's the voice of a grieving family member hours after learning 3-year-old Chayce, who is blind, was found dead inside of a freezer.
We loved him and we miss him, and she need to pay for what she did.
Chayce's mom, who goes by Dee Dee, is under arrest in connection to the toddler's death. We're told by family 6 children, including Chayce and a newborn, were living in unlivable conditions inside this home off Monte Vista on Detroit's west side.
They didn't have anything. In the winter, I saw them with summer clothes.
Neighbors say they tried to help, but the child's mom, Dee Dee, wouldn't let anyone in, including family, who say they haven't seen Chayce since last September.
First she said she gave him, was in the hospital when she gave him away. Then she said a couple had him. It was just too many stories not making sense.
Detroit police say Children's Protective Services, CPS, contacted DPD Friday morning to do a welfare check at the home. Police say Dee Dee's answers to their questions did not add up. When they went inside, they found Chayce's body decomposing in a basement freezer that was not working. Sources say he's been inside the freezer since at least March, but police have not confirmed.
The other kids that were in the home, just imagine what they must have gone through and what they must have endured.
Family tells Fox 2 they've been trying to intervene for years and get the kids out of there, calling CPS more than a dozen times.
She couldn't deal with it, and everybody asked, if you don't want to be bothered, give them to us.
Court records show Dee Dee was convicted of child in 2018 for beating her nephew and has a long history with CPS.
She had her kids taken away from her.
Before, yes, and got them back. Yes, and got them back.
At the police station, detectives asked Azuradee to explain what had happened that night, and she began with the moment officers arrived at her home.
He explained to me everything that took place, and you know, the whole story. Okay. So let's start with what happened tonight. Okay, like how it all began.
I was laying down watching TV and I saw the flashlights like in the window.
What time do you think that was?
I'm not sure. I didn't look at the time.
Well, how long do you think it's been since like that point to right now? A little bit over an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I opened the door and I said yes, and they said they were here to do a well-being check.
You said so? You opened the door and you saw it was the police.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And he said they're here to do a well-being check, and I said okay.
For what?
Chayce Allen, my son.
For Chayce
Allen, my son.
Okay.
And they asked me where was he, and okay, I did lie. I said he was with someone. He wasn't.
Who'd you say he was with?
A lady, a friend.
A friend. Do you remember the name he told them?
Miss Robertson.
Miss Robinson?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there such a person, or you just made that up?
I just made that up.
Okay. So they didn't believe you, or?
I guess not, because they came back.
Oh, so they left? So you told them he was with Mrs. Robinson, and how long before they came back?
Like 10, 20 minutes.
Okay, so when they came back, then what happened?
They said they needed to check the house.
And make sure he wasn't there?
Yeah. So that's when I opened the door and said, okay, I confess.
You said I confess?
Yes. I said he's in the basement, in the refrigerator.
However, Azuradee still denied that she had caused his death.
And then they handcuffed me, put me in the back of the car. But I did not beat my son. I didn't. He was malnourished.
Okay, look, hold on. We'll get there. So they handcuffed you and they took you into custody and put you in the back of the police car?
Yes.
And then they brought you down here?
Yes.
Okay. So you said you didn't beat your son?
No, I didn't.
So can you tell me how he passed?
He wasn't eating. Okay, he's blind and he's medical issue. So
he's blind, and what else?
He like wouldn't eat or anything. Like he needed special attention. And okay, so I tried to wake him up that morning and he didn't wake up. He wasn't breathing or anything. So I laid him on the hallway floor and I thought to myself, I said, what am I gonna do? I picked up my phone and I was finna call, but I was scared. So I just took an immunization.
So how long ago was that?
The end of March.
The end of March?
Yeah.
So you're saying that you woke up one morning and he was already dead?
Yes.
He died in his sleep?
Yes, he had to because he wasn't breathing. I was about to wake him up. I figured.
Where did he sleep?
Along with the kids.
In a bed by himself, or?
Yes. The kids was in my room and he was in the.
By himself?
Yep.
And he's how old?
3.
And when you say he wasn't eating, were you trying to feed him?
Yes, I was. I went and bought the powder from GNC, the weight powder.
Protein
and
powder.
I bought the insurance. I did everything I could. He wasn't eating. And I was.
They were trying to take him to the doctor?
I was scared. I was scared that they was going to take my other kids. I was so scared.
So how long had he not been eating?
A couple weeks.
And you never took him to the doctor or anything to try to figure out what was going on? Because you were afraid they were going to take your other kids?
Yes.
But if it's
because he was malnutrition.
Right, but if it's a medical condition.
I shouldn't take him. Did the right thing.
But okay, so at the end of March, you're saying you woke up one morning.
Because I made the kid breakfast and I went in there to get a look and I gave him some water and he fell back down. So I'm like, he's not breathing.
What do you mean he fell back down? So he was up?
No, he wasn't up. Like, I set him up, but he wasn't responding.
Was he cold? I mean...
Yeah, he was.
Azuradee claimed she went to wake Chayce one morning, sat him up, and realized he was not responding.
I did not touch him or anything. I put that in my dead brother. I didn't.
You were able to move him around?
Yes. I was scared. I didn't know who to call.
So you woke him up, you sat him up, you tried to wake him up. He wasn't awake.
No. I felt his heart. He wasn't breathing.
So you tried to sit him up, he fell back down.
Yes.
You laid him in the hallway. And then you decided you were going to call, but you were scared that they would take your other kids?
Yes. I dialed 911 on my phone, but I didn't. It didn't go through.
So you put him in the basement?
Yes.
So explain to me at that point exactly what you did.
Okay, I found one of the pad bags and I put him in.
Like a laundry bag?
Yep. And then I walked him downstairs and put him in the basement one. But
So you put him in the bag first?
Yes.
Upstairs?
In the hallway. You
put him in the bag, then you carried the bag down into the basement?
Yes.
And you have a refrigerator in the basement?
A freezer.
Is it like a?
It was there when I moved there. It's like
describe it to me. Does it look like a refrigerator, or does it look like one of those like deep freezers that's kind of like this big?
No, it's an old back in the day refrigerator. Like it doesn't have a freezer, just
one big refrigerator.
Yep.
One big, like a door.
Yep.
Is it plugged in? Was it working?
It was working, but I don't know what happened. And I swear I was going to turn myself in everything.
So at the end of March, so you put him in there, and then that was it.
Yes.
You never checked. You never tried to move the body. You never tried to do anything with it.
Well, I went down there like a couple of weeks ago, and I just got on my knees and prayed.
When did you discover that the refrigerator wasn't working?
Last week.
Last week.
Yes.
So when you initially put him in there, the refrigerator was working.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
I did not beat him or anything. He just didn't eat. He wasn't eating. Like, I did call my dad and say, Dad, he's not eating. I don't know what to do. And they did tell me to take him to the hospital, and I didn't listen.
So since March, none of your family members or anybody have asked, like, where he's at or anybody? And
I kept on and said he was at his home. And I wanted to open up to him, but I was so scared.
Okay. Before we write all that down, I just want to get a few things from you. Your deceased son, his name is Chance?
Chayce.
Chayce? C-H?
A-Y-C-E.
A-Y-C-E? Last name is what?
Allen.
And what's his date of birth?
9/18.
So he's almost going to be 4.
Yes.
And you have how many other children?
5.
And while he was hidden in the basement, Azuradee continued living upstairs with the 5 other children, answering questions from relatives and giving them different stories about where he had gone.
Who all was home when that happened?
Just me and the kids.
Nobody else lives there? None of your baby daddies? No boyfriend? They're not going to find... Because, they're searching the house right now. So there's no male clothing or somebody's stuff there that lives there?
He wasn't there at the time.
Who's he?
My baby daddy.
What's his...
I lied and told him he was with, because he did ask him. I told him he was with a lady, but he don't know he was in the basement.
And where's he right now?
At work, I think.
Where's he work at?
Landscaping.
At night? They don't cut grass at night.
Well, he was at work earlier. I'm sorry. I don't know where he is now.
What's his phone number?
He sleeps in the driveway.
He doesn't sleep in the house?
No. No, he doesn't, because me and him are not together. But he asked to just stay there until he get himself together.
But his stuff's in the house?
Yep.
What kind of car does he drive?
A black Tahoe.
A black Tahoe?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what year?
No. I'm not sure.
Is it newer, older?
Older.
Anything descriptive about you can tell me about it that stands out? Is it tinted, big wheels, anything?
Just the old Tahoe.
Is it rusted up, banged up, accident damage, anything?
Yeah. My kids can also tell you that he sleeps in the car too.
I understand if you're trying to protect somebody.
No,
Hold on. Okay. Like, I just want to make sure, and I'm not accusing you of lying to me or trying to be an a-hole or anything like that, okay? Just hear me out, okay? I understand this is your baby daddy. That's the father of some of your kids. You know, if something happened and you're trying to cover up for him, you need to think about your other kids.
No,
and you need to be there for them.
No,
so if he did something to that child, and you're trying to cover up for him, you should just, you need to tell me.
No, I swear on my kids, I swear.
So you're telling me for the last 4 months.
You can call my dad too, because me and him got into it, and my dad made him move out. And ever since then, he been sleeping in the driveway.
I understand that he's been sleeping in the driveway, but what I'm saying is, so for 4 months, he didn't ask.
Yes, he asked, and
he never didn't. I mean, 4 months is a long time for a kid to be away. Yeah. And for him not to wonder where this child is. He's not the father of that child?
No, he was wondering where he was. He kept asking, and I kept lying and saying he was with someone.
So
he kept saying that didn't sound right to him.
Where's Chayce's dad?
Incarcerated.
He's in jail. None of his family members ever came and visited the child or anything like that? Grandma or nothing?
Yeah.
Throughout the interview, Azuradee insisted that she had not harmed Chayce. She said he had stopped eating, that he had several medical problems, and that he had passed away in his sleep before she panicked and hid what had happened. But the medical examiner's findings told a different story. Chayce's death was ruled a homicide, and the cause was blunt force trauma to the head. That single finding changed the meaning of everything Azuradee had told detectives, because this was no longer only a story about fear, poor judgment, or a mother who claimed she did not know what to do after finding her son unresponsive. It was now a murder investigation.
Today, baby Chayce's death was ruled a homicide, and Azuradee France is now facing murder, first-degree child torture, and concealing a death charges.
I can't even sleep. I can't sleep. I cannot.
France's mother, mourning the loss of her grandson, is sickened and outraged that he could have died at the hands of her own child.
No, that's not my daughter. I brought a monster into the world, didn't even know it.
Azuradee France is due back in court on July 8th for a probable cause conference, and she will be before a judge on the 15th. As for the other 5 children, they're now with family.
And once investigators looked beyond the basement and started examining the years before Chayce died, the case became even harder to explain because the warning signs had not appeared once or twice. They had been building almost from the beginning of his life.
They have no idea how long this child was potentially in that freezer or what led to this happening to begin with. But as you guys can see from this glowing memorial behind me, this is something that the community is definitely broken up for. And we know that it's heartbreaking news for one woman in particular who is actually trying to take care of this little boy.
It's a hurting thing because I've asked her, if he was too much to give him to me.
Lynette Hardy could never have children of her own, so she was downright devastated learning the 3-year-old boy next door was found dead in a basement freezer.
We had been praying that the little boy would be found, but I had no idea he would be found dead. He was blind.
Lynette says the child had been missing since January. 5 other kids were in the house when the heartbreaking discovery was made following a welfare check and CPS investigation. Lynette had seen them all except the little boy that was discovered.
I did help clothe them and feed them. They were very loving children.
Prior to her being told he was missing, she was led to believe he was sent to go live with family.
She had said that her aunt and uncle in Alabama had him.
The mother has been taken into custody. Lynette, however, never saw anything out of the ordinary.
And as a matter of fact, the mother was loving.
Detroit Police Chief James White says the department is looking at all possibilities. The sad thing is what happens to the other children now that were inside the home.
And we're looking to see what other incidents she's had with CPS as well as the police department. That'll be part of our overall investigation.
I had tears, but then again, I was kind of consoled by him not being able to endure any more hardship.
Azuradee was taken into custody on the same day officers found Chayce in the basement, and the 5 surviving children were removed from the home so they could be examined and interviewed away from the scene. The children were taken for medical checks, forensic interviews, and psychological support because investigators needed to understand what they had seen, what they had been told, and how long they had been living under those conditions.
Certainly we started our morning hearing about this case. DPD officers responded to a home on this street. There are other children at the home, so I am not giving the address out, but it's located in this intersection on this street. The child, who is estimated to be 3 years old, was found in this home deceased. They were here on a welfare check. Upon making this location with Child Protective Services and interviewing the occupant of the home, it was determined that the 3-year-old child was deceased in this home in the basement and sadly found in a freezer. This case has shocked me, shocked our investigators, but the discovery would not have been possible without the officers' intuition. When they talked to the occupant of the home, they recognized that there was something not right about the conversation and the way this occupant was communicating with them. I want to acknowledge Officer Plea, Grishaber, and Bedrol. All 3 difficult names, but I think it bears repeating. Officer Plea, Gifhaber, and Bedrol. Those 3 officers responded early this morning to this location, talked to the occupant of the home, and again, initially the conversation was to just push the officers away as if there was nothing going on, but their intuition, their experience led them to know that something was wrong, something just wasn't right. They called for a supervisor. Upon the supervisor's arrival and additional conversation, this tragic and sad discovery happened, and we're certainly getting support for the officers. That is something that no one should have to see. And as I indicated, the other kids that were in the home, just imagine what they must have gone through and what they must have endured being inside of that home. And yes, the child was decomposing, and yes, the child was found in the freezer. So with that, I'd like to bring up Captain Blackwell to talk a little bit about the case. We can't get into too much of it. I hope you can respect that. The prosecutor will have to chime in on this case. It's wide open, and I don't want to compromise her work by talking too much about specifics, but we will give you an overview, a high-level overview on where we are with the case. Captain?
2 days later, on June 26, 2022, prosecutors formally charged Azuradee with felony murder, first-degree child and concealing the death of an individual. She was arraigned in 36th District Court before Magistrate Laura Echartia, and she was remanded to jail while the case moved forward. From that point, the investigation widened beyond the discovery in the freezer. Detectives, prosecutors, medical experts, and child welfare officials began reviewing the condition of the home, Chayce's medical history, Azuradee's statements, the accounts of the surviving children, and the long record of earlier CPS involvement. However, the case did not reach its final outcome quickly. For the next 2 years, Azuradee remained in custody as the charges moved through court, and the central question was no longer whether Chayce had been hidden in the basement. It was how much of what happened before his death could be proven in court. On July 12, 2024, more than 2 years after Chayce was found, Azuradee France pleaded guilty to second-degree murder as part of a sentencing agreement. Then, on July 29th, she returned to court to hear the punishment that would follow. Azuradee sat quietly with her hands covering her face while members of her family spoke about what had happened, and her sister, Azawant Sauls, addressed her directly. She told Azuradee that Chayce had depended on her for protection, but instead, he had been hurt beyond recovery.
Inside the 3rd District Court in Detroit, 33-year-old Azuradee France covered her face as she listened to her sister read a victim impact statement.
I pray that you find healing, that you actually one day regret what you did to your children, especially Chayce, because he didn't deserve it.
However, the most painful detail came from Assistant Prosecutor Aaron Wilmoth, who told the court that 2 of Chayce's siblings had witnessed Azuradee place their brother in the freezer.
Not only did 2 of the siblings of Chayce Allen witness Ms. France putting their deceased brother in a freezer, one of the children, who was 9 years old at the time, at Ms. France's direction, went and got the laundry bag that she eventually put him in.
The prosecutor also said Chayce's mother was not alone in failing to keep him safe during his short life.
He was failed by so many during his short life. CPS. There was at least 7 rejected complaints by CPS, as well as at least 6 CPS investigations.
An argument even the defense attorney could support.
The one thing we can agree upon is this child was failed from every single adult that could have helped him.
One of those children was 9 years old at the time, and according to the prosecution, Azuradee told that child to bring her the laundry bag that was later used to carry him downstairs. That meant the surviving children had not only lived above the basement where Chayce was hidden, but some of them had also seen part of what happened after his death.
If authorities would have handled that case the right way, there's a chance France's son Chayce would not be dead.
He was beat up pretty bad, like black eyes, wounds all on his private area, and he was hurting.
That's how Patricia Davis remembers what her grandson looked like when she picked him up back in 2018 after he spent some time at the home of Azuradee France. She says he was soaked in urine.
So I had picked him up to put him in her mom's tub to wash him, but when I went to pick him up, he started screaming and crying, like, like you gasping for air.
The boy was brought to the hospital. Sources telling me CPS as well as Detroit police were involved, and the case eventually ended up in court.
I remember the lawyer stating to us that she was going to lose her children and that she will begin locked up for her crimes.
We've learned France was charged with third-degree child, later reduced to fourth-degree child, and only served 2 years probation. Her children were returned to her.
And I just feel like if they would have followed through with what they said they were going to do, I feel my personal opinion that Chayce would be alive today. I blame them because they had the upper hand. Meaning protective services, because the judge is going to react off the notes.
Now, I did reach out to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office on how could this mother only get 2 years probation.
Wilmoth told the court that Chayce had been failed by many people during his short life, and then even the defense agreed with that point. Azuradee's attorney, Lillian Diallo, said the one thing everyone could agree on was that Chayce had been failed by every adult who had the chance to help him. Judge Tracy Green then sentenced Azuradee to 35 to 60 years in prison, which matched the plea agreement she had accepted earlier that month. As part of that agreement, the original charges of felony murder, first-degree child abuse, torture, and concealing the death of an individual were dismissed. The criminal case had now reached its end. But the questions about how Chayce had been left in danger for so long were far from over. In 2025, Chayce's father, Chayce Allen, took the case into federal court and filed a lawsuit against 13 people connected to Michigan's child protection system. The lawsuit accused CPS and MDHHS linked workers of gross negligence and deliberate indifference, and it argued that they had repeated chances to step in before Chayce died. It pointed back to the first reports when he was only a few months old, then to the years that followed when the children were removed, returned, and placed back under investigation. It also focused on the burn to his hand, the delayed medical care, the ankle surgery, the later reports of bruising and vomiting, and the medical records that described blindness, head-related findings, and a healing injury to his leg. The lawsuit said relatives had kept calling, concerns had kept returning, and Chayce's name had appeared again and again in reports that were supposed to protect him. But despite all of that, he remained in the same environment. The complaint described the final part of his life in one of its most painful lines, saying that Chayce spent his last days of suffering in complete darkness. Then, in 2026, Judge Terrence G. Berg dismissed the claims against the state defendants. That ruling ended the case against those defendants, but it did not erase the timeline that had been laid out in the court record. And that timeline showed something difficult to ignore. Long before police found Chayce in the basement, his name had already appeared before the system many times. In the end, the people who loved Chayce tried to bring the focus back to who he had been before his name became tied to a police investigation, a courtroom, and a federal lawsuit. His family gathered in Detroit and released green and white balloons into the sky, and they described him as sweet, shy, soft-spoken, and gentle.
Neighbors in disbelief after a mother is accused of and her 3-year-old son, his found in a basement freezer.
I just wish I could have done more. I wish that I could have saved him. I just wish.
Tonight, they gather to remember the young life taken too soon.
My little cousin, he was a funny little boy. He was the youngest best friend I had.
Heartbreaking words coming from 11-year-old Zaire Anderson reacting to the death of his little cousin Chayce, that's only 8 years younger.
I'm hurting, but God knows how I'm feeling. I know Chayce in a better place, but it still don't make me stop crying. It hurt real bad. He only 3. You're not supposed to do that to a kid.
It's just a little bit too hard to bear for the family and not only the family but the friends, the neighbor, everyone who knew them.
Next door neighbor Cheryl Hardy, however, wishes she could have helped, being so close.
I just wish I could have done more. I wish that I could have saved him. I just wish.
A candlelight vigil and balloon release taking place right in front of the very same house where the horrible discovery was made. Pastor Mo did his best to console Chayce's loved ones.
Rest in peace!
Rest in peace!
This one hurts deep within. You don't even have words to fathom the egregious act toward this child.
As of now, the investigation continues into finding out how little Chayce died and how long his body had been in the basement of the house while he was believed to be missing for so long.
I feel like no kid in this world should be deceased.
Outside the Monte Vista home, toys and stuffed animals began to collect on the steps, turning the place where so much had gone wrong into a quiet memorial for a child who had lived only 3 years.
Today, green and white balloons were released into the sky, remembering Chayce Allen, a sweet, soft-spoken 3-year-old who was tragically discovered in a deep freezer at his mother's home in Detroit.
Say, baby Chayce! Baby Chayce! We love you!
We love you!
He did not deserve to go through what he went through.
Chayce France was Chayce's aunt. She says Azuradee France, who was Chayce's mother, has a history of children, and she and her husband received custody of Chayce when he was just 2 months old, when the mom of 6 got all her children taken away.
She should have never got her kids back after that.
Azanti Sauls is France's sister. She says the last time she saw Chayce in person was last summer, and his head was bigger than his body. She says she fought with her sister to take the child, and when she refused, she says the family called CPS and DPD for months, but were told there was nothing they could do.
Even when we tried our hardest,
In this moment right now, it makes us feel like that we didn't try hard enough.
Last month, Saw says Chayce, who went blind about a year ago, was burned. His mother claimed it was because he touched a cup of hot noodles, but CPS got involved. And she says the state was supposed to be doing checkups every 3 months.
CPS, they failed us. They failed his family. They failed Chayce.
And that's where this case comes to a close. What do you think about everything that happened? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this story stayed with you, there are more cases on the channel that explore situations just as disturbing. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and share the video. It helps keep stories like this from fading away. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.